Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we usually go back and look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. However, today we have a special bonus episode where we're going to look at a Netflix original film from 2026. This is the animated fantasy adventure comedy film called Swapped. It's directed by Nathan Greno and features the voices of Michael B. Jordan, Juno Temple, Tracy Morgan, Cedric the Entertainer, and Justina Machado. I am Jesse. I am your host. Thank you for joining me for this special Netflix original film. If this is a recent film that you haven't seen yet and you're interested in checking it out, give us a pause and come back a little bit later on because I will spoil this as we go. And we do start off with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. So this one's about a Puku and a Javan who switch bodies, meaning they have to ditch long-held grievances to survive. There you go. That's my take on it. Those are two animals, two words that are made up for this film. So if you're as confused as I was while I was watching this and thinking, what sort of animal is this? Then you're on the same page as me. Let's jump into how this ended up on Netflix. So the tagline for this film was "Transform Your Destiny." That obviously ties in with the idea of body switching. This is a body switching film. The Netflix logline for this film was "Life turns upside down for the smallest creature in the valley, Michael B. Jordan, when he suddenly swaps bodies with a majestic bird, Juno Temple." And then as you watch on Netflix, it further says, "A tiny woodland creature and a majestic bird suddenly swap bodies, forcing them to team up to survive the wildest adventure of their lives." This is a family-friendly film, so maybe you might want to watch this with your kids. If so, then maybe I'll give you a little bit of an insight as to why you shouldn't. There are some dark moments, but it is pretty kid-friendly. The translations for this film around the world, so after we've already discussed, this is about two animals swapping bodies. In Spanish, it's called exchanged. Tick, makes sense. Dutch, it's called switched. Also makes sense. In French, it's called crossed adventures. Yes. In Portuguese, like magic. There we go. There's something we haven't touched on yet. Yes, there are some magic elements to this, or magical elements. In Chinese, it's called fantasy transformation adventure. A mouthful, but works. In Arabic, it's called everybody has a story. Very broad. In German, it's called swapped exchanged. There we go. Hungarian, in each other's skin. I like that one. In Italian, it's called swapped in your place. Okay. Norwegian, wrong spring. Sure. In Polish, Russian, and Ukrainian, it's in someone else's skin. There we go. That's a good one. In Macedonian, it's called substitution. There we go. Might be playing a sport. In Korean, it's called the mysterious adventure of swapped friends. There we go. That's not bad. In Swedish, in the wrong body. In Thai, body swap adventure. In Turkish, take my place. And in Vietnamese, it's called the transforming adventure. There we go. Nice tie up. So we go back to February of 2018, where it was announced that Nathan Greno had signed a multi-year contract with Skydance Media to write and direct an animated film, provisionally titled Powerless, as well as consult on projects in development. We move forward to January of 2019, where Skydance Animation hired former Pixar and Walt Disney Animation Studio CCO John Lasseter as head of animation. The project reunited Lasseter and Greno, who previously directed Tangled for Disney in 2010, alongside Brian Howard under Lasseter's leadership at Walt Disney Animation Studios. In April of 2020, Greno's film was revealed to be retitled to Puku. Then in October of 2023, Siddhartha Khosla was revealed to be composing the film's score. In October of 2025, Skydance Animation Madrid's VP of Finance and Operations, Carolina Borgiero Sanz, confirmed that the studio had delivered the film, which had been retitled from Puku to Swapped. Michael B. Jordan and Juno Temple were revealed as cast members in November of 2025. And then in January of 2026, Tracy Morgan and Cedric the Entertainer were revealed as cast members. That same month, Tim Mertens, the editor of Tangled and Bolt for Disney, as well as Wreck-It Ralph, was revealed to be editing the film. Swapped was originally meant to be released on Apple TV Plus, and this makes sense because that is where John Lasseter signed after disgracefully leaving Disney. But in October of 2023, Netflix took over the film's distribution rights from Apple as part of a new multi-year deal with Skydance Animation, while setting it initially for a 2025 release. In June of 2024, a first look of rendered images from the film was released in Netflix's Next on Netflix animation presentation. And in June of 2025, at the Annecy Film Festival, Netflix revealed a second rendered image. June of 2025, Netflix announced that the film would premiere in 2026. The film was screened at the Sebastiano Theatre in Sonoma on January the 9th, 2026, ahead of its limited theatrical release and premiere on Netflix on May the 1st. The film hit 38.7 million views in 7 days on Netflix, which was Netflix's best ever single week viewership for an animated movie. A lot of social media clips went viral over a twist in the film, which I don't know if I'm going to touch on. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. So, as said before, this was released on Netflix on the 1st of May, 2026. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, there are 47 critic reviews. It sits at 68%, so that is fresh. Not certified, but fresh. Audience, a little bit higher, 88%. That's on more than 500 ratings. That's super high. The same on IMDb, where it sits at a 7.3 out of 10 on 19,000 ratings. Again, positive. And then Letterboxd, a 3.4 out of 5 on 208,000 ratings. And it's been logged by 227,000 people. This is wild. Some wild numbers here for this film. Metacritic, where they use a traffic light system for red, yellow, or green, with green being positive, yellow in the middle, and red at the bottom. So the critics have it in yellow section, 56 out of 111 critic reviews, whereas the audience has it in green. What a surprise, a 6.8 out of 10 on 42 reviews. So overall, you would have to say this film's been positively received by audiences, but not so much by critics. Am I a critic? Am I an audience? I don't know. What am I? Let's see what my early thoughts are for this one. I think narrative-wise, it's nothing new, but visually, it does stand out because there's so much to see. Unfortunately, it probably doesn't deserve a repeat viewing for the younger kids, but it's got enough niceness and enough positive messages to take away that it's good family watching. All right, let's talk about the characters in this film. Some characters. Ollie. Ollie is our main protagonist. He is a puku, which is a sea otter-like animal, is the best way to describe him. When he was young, he showed these green birds that are called javans how to eat their food source. He was being kind. He was sharing. He was trying to help this bird, but this ruined the puku's food chain supply because this bird, the Javan, they took over the space and took all the food, and it sort of brought these puku to the brink of extinction. And poor little Ollie, he gets outcast for this, and he wants to help reclaim their food, or a food source for them, and their land, and he uses his curiosity to try and do this because he feels ostracized. No one in his clan, or what do you call them, the group of animals, respect him or look out for him because of the pain that he's caused them. The opposite, or the bird, the Javan bird called Ivy, and this is the bird, and this is a spoiler, but this is the bird that Ollie befriended and ruined his tribe. And throughout this film, they switch bodies by touching this magic plant, and then they have to work together to try and get their bodies back, but also to work together to try and save all of the animals that live in this land. She's very pushy, and this probably comes through her younger sisters called Violet and Lily, and they're all competitive sisters, but these sisters owe a lot to Ivy as she raised them when their parents passed. So Ivy's this bird that's been used to being told all the time that she's pushy, she's bossy, she does the wrong thing, and Ollie sort of but as he gets to know her better, realizes that she's a good character there too. The other character in this film that joins them on the quest for a little bit is Boogle. He's this fish, but it's a spoiler, and it's revealed that he was the firewolf, and he's been transformed into a fish to trap him in a body, and he wants to escape, and he wants to destroy all the land, and he becomes the villain in the back half of this film. Kalu and Callie, they're Ollie's dad and mum. They constantly tell him to never trust anyone but a puku, but this is, I guess the reason behind this is they've never opened their eyes to anything, and Ollie needs to help guide them in the right direction to opening their eyes and accepting others for who they are too. The only other big character in this film are the Zos, or DZO. They're these mythical giant creatures who walk the forest and give life to it, so they add that magical side to this film too. The director of this film, Nathan Greno, he directed the short film that came out when Bolt, the Disney film Bolt, the one that Miley Cyrus was a voice in. He directed the Super Rhino short from that, as well as the feature film Tangled for Disney, and the short called Tangled Ever After, which was a tie-in to Tangled 2. So obviously worked a bit at Disney on some animation there as well. What are some scenes that worked, and what are some ones that didn't work? The ones that worked, for me, the things that worked, Ollie inventing this snorkel at the start of the film, he's using a bucket. It was just visually impressive and introduced you to this world that these characters were living in. I thought that was really good. There's a moment where Ollie comes out of the cave as the bird. He's been transformed, and his family all freak out because all they say is is a Jarvan, and they're like, the Jarvan's eaten Ollie. I thought that was quite funny. That was humorous. I'm not a big fan. There's a lot of slapstick humor in this film that doesn't work. There's a moment where there's this slapstick moment of Ollie's head getting hit repeatedly across rocks as the Jarvan save him. I thought that was that one moment that worked. I thought that was quite funny. Ollie, at one stage, he says, I'm a puku. This is after he's been concussed. And Ivy's like, you're making up words now. I thought that was funny because of, like I said at the start, the idea of what is a puku? the boogle, the fish, he gives this pod so Ollie can change back to a puku instead of being a Jarvan. And then Ivy, as a Jarvan, touches it and then changes into a puku, and Ollie cries. I thought that was funny. And I also liked the bears. There's this scene in like a river with a bit of a waterfall, and there's these bears in the water that look like rocks. I just thought that was quite clever and quite funny too. All right, the things that didn't necessarily work in this one, I think there's a scene where the birds cake Ollie with animal excrement, poo, to hide him from the wolf. It just wasn't funny. Didn't like that. Ivy and Ollie, they're in this cave to get away from the wolves, and it's filled with snakes. It just went on forever and ever. Some really poor dialogue, and it was boring, and there were some dumb choices. The wolves were chasing them, and obviously the snakes, if they feel any movement or any vibrations, then they're going to attack. So the idea of these two is to get through the cave, they'll be as quiet and as possible to get through. And if the wolves actually wanted to get them, like, why did they shake the cave so late and get the rocks to fall? They could have done it earlier. That just felt dumb. There's this uplifting music when Ollie first flies as a Jarvan. That was lame. There's this montage of Ollie making a stretcher to carry Ivy after she's been knocked out. It was just laughable. It went on forever. And finally, Ollie comes out as this Zoe thing, and Ivy's saying, you've got this, and his parents are like, that's our son. It just was cringeworthy. Other than that, the themes, the ideas, some good messages for some kids in this film. The idea of survival, strength in numbers, trust, sharing, friendship, environmental sustainability, I guess, is probably a good way of putting it. The idea of looking after the environment for the creatures that are big and small that need it. Mercy, being mercy, or showing mercy being, allowing people that have land to come back onto their land and not exiling people. I think this all ties in a bit with real world sort of issues. The idea of walking in someone else's shoes is probably the biggest message in this film, with empathy and understanding others' perspectives and acceptance of others too. So that all plays nice for kids too. What else did I take away from this film? I think, like, visually, the film, it was a pleasure to look at. It was vibrant, it was colourful, and there's just so much going on all the time. Unfortunately, a lot of the dialogue probably needed a bit of a rewrite. It felt like one of those Netflix films where there's just so much talk that you're just being filled with a dump of proposition or things that you don't actually need to hear or understand, because visually, that's what you should be focusing on. Okay, what else? What are some questions, some pondering, some thoughts, some ideas? I think after the first 5 minutes, I paused and I was like, if I was a kid, I'd be pretty bored right now. I probably would have switched off and gone, let's watch something else. So that's not great for a kid's film. Yes, for me, it was visually appealing, but it didn't hook you straight away. And I think this is often discussed about films that are sort of in production concurrently that have the same idea. Like, you think back to Ants and A Bug's Life, if I'm talking about an animated example, but Hoppers, the Disney film that's come out at the same time as this, pretty much. I guess it's a little bit more unfortunate timing, because this film, obviously, as we spoke about at the start, had been in development for a long time. So interesting. The other idea, like, can we have something other than overprotective parents in kids' movies? I feel like that's been done enough now. Let's move forward. Let's move on. The Boogle thing, this fish thing. He knows where all the magic little pods are. And the idea that he's never tried to turn back into himself as that wolf guy, it just felt a bit dumb, a bit lame. And I'm all down for the hybrid animals and the magical stuff, but the wolves swimming, like, come on. There's a moment where they swim to save all the other animals to get them across to the Puku Island. There's a moment earlier on where they couldn't swim to save their kid that had fallen into the water. Just narrative-wise, that was annoying. And I reckon the embers, as the firewolf guys lighting up the forest, the embers that were flying off that fire would have taken out the island in the middle of the water as well. And there's this log that this firewolf dude's on. And how did that not catch fire? There's just a couple of things. I mean, anyway, other than that, let's wrap it up. We give the film a rating out of 5 on this show. I love animation, and it hasn't been a big feature of this podcast because we haven't done an awful lot of animated films, but I've been an avid Disney fan all my life, and I guess I've probably lost a little bit of a connection to the form of animation over the last few years. I guess this one hasn't helped too much. I mean, it's fine entertainment, but it's probably not the solid family entertainment that appeals to everyone. Like, teenagers would probably be pretty bored with this film. So anyway, I'm giving this a 2.5 out of 5. It's okay. It's worth a watch, but it's not one of those classic kids films that you're going to put on for repeat viewing. Other than that, we're on socials. We have Facebook, we have Instagram, and we have X, formerly known as Twitter. Give us a follow, give us a like on there. Question for this film that I wanted to ask was, did Netflix hold on to the release of this film to see if Michael B. Jordan won an Oscar? I reckon that this probably could have been released earlier, back end of 2025, but maybe with all the hype around Sinners and the lead up to the Academy Awards and the Oscars and Michael B. Jordan, they thought that this was a selling point, that it would have more eyeballs on it. And I guess maybe it worked. Based on the numbers from Netflix, this has been pretty successful. So, question, I don't know, maybe I answered it myself. Let's get into our back catalogue. We have a huge back catalogue. 500 plus Netflix original films covered. Have a search through our catalogue. There might be something you want to watch. Give us a listen. Give us a like. As always, thanks for hanging out. We have our regular show out on a Monday, so join in then. Other than that, I will see you then.